G'day guys. It's no secret that healthcare costs in the United States are incredibly expensive, and sometimes you might find yourself wondering exactly how those costs are worked out. So today, stick around as we're going to have a look at billing and the cost of healthcare in the United States and what you can do, particularly if you cannot afford it.
Do you come from a land down under? Oh, where women glow and men plunder. Oh, can you hear the thunder? Oh, you better run, you better take cover. Oh.
Healthcare costs in the United States, as well as the entire process that surrounds them. It's no secret that healthcare can sometimes be quite expensive, and you might find yourself caught off guard as to where exactly those costs can be found and how to pay them. I'm sure you've heard the words, "It will just come off your deductible," more than once when you've needed treatment. But what do you do if your deductible is $7,000 or more? Does it get to the point where the cost outweighs the benefit of treatment? Sadly, not all healthcare providers are perceived as being incredibly helpful when it comes to billing matters. You might find yourself left feeling utterly confused and left to your own devices when trying to navigate the sometimes entirely grey, complex world of medical billing. Now, I've spent 6 years navigating the healthcare system here, and it still confuses and infuriates me. When we first moved to the United States in 2018, my wife was 5 months pregnant at the time, and one of the first tasks that we had was to find an obstetrician to assist with what was deemed a high-risk pregnancy. Now, the timing of our green cards meant that if we waited until the birth to relocate, we probably would have lost the chance to actually move here. So we left an awesome obstetrician in Canberra, Australia, with a healthcare system that we were fully comfortable with for an adventure on what is literally the other side of the world. We obtained health insurance through what is termed the marketplace, and it's otherwise known as Obamacare. The premium was a whopping $1,600 a month with a $7,500 deductible, but it did give us coverage for the pregnancy care and the birth. Now, the deductible, for those of you that don't know, is the amount that you must pay first before the insurance company takes over. It's good for 12 months and then it starts all over again. Fast forward to the birth, and on admittance to the hospital, I needed to complete all of the admittance forms and financial documents. 7 days later, it was time to check out with baby in tow. I was advised by the admin people that I needed to pay the hospital bill before leaving.
Could you pay me in advance?
I was then shown a document with a $97,000 price tag. That bill was then discounted down to $23,000 if I paid it there and then. As luck would have it, the hospital's card readers were offline, and I was advised to call back the next day and pay it over the phone.
Help!
I was also led to believe that doing it this way, rather than through my insurance, was going to be cheaper for me. The exact words of the billing person were, "You don't want to run this through your insurance, do you?" Next day, I called the insurance rep who had set up the policy for us. I was told that what the hospital had tried to do was actually very common in the medical industry. And apparently, if I paid them directly, they would get more money than if I went through the insurance company. So it was in the hospital's best interest for me to pay it this way, but it wasn't in my own best interest. In the end, that $97,000 hospital bill ended up becoming my deductible of $7,500. That's what I paid, and the insurance company paid the rest. The lesson out of this was to lean on your insurance company for advice, or in our case, the insurance broker. We had no idea, and over time, I've also come to know that most Americans don't know the ins and outs of their own healthcare system. Unpaid medical bills can result in calls from debt collectors, dings on your credit report, which in turn affect your borrowing capacity and can even lead to higher insurance premiums. There are some options, though, that might help you. So, first of all, always double check the bill and ensure that all charges are accurate. Ask for a discount. If you do not have insurance, ask for Medicare rates. It can steeply decrease the bill. Ask for a payment plan that is affordable to you. Ask them to forgive your debt. There are non-profits that may be able to assist you in paying or negotiating that debt down. And lastly, if you have no other options, meet with a bankruptcy attorney. One of the scare tactics that debt collectors use is the threat of sending you to jail for unpaid debts. This will not happen, and it is an illegal threat. What they can do is negatively affect your credit score, obtain a court judgment to garnish your wages or bank account, or place a lien on your house. It's also good to know that as of 2023, unpaid medical debts for less than $500 will not be added to your credit report. A few years ago, I was sent for a series of tests that were conducted in one of the local hospitals here. Before having the tests, I had to meet with the admin team. And I was told prior to going into the room to see the specialist and having the test done that I would have to pay $3,000 up front. And apparently this was after what the insurance company was paying. I repeatedly questioned this, and in the end, I left without having the test done, but had to return several months later when I was still having the same issues. Issues, incidentally, that have still not been resolved years later. This time I was told, great news, your insurance will cover this, and you don't have to pay anything. So off I went for the tests. 6 weeks later, I receive a bill in the mail for $1,500. Now that's a bill that I have refused to pay, and I've gone back and forwards with both the hospital, the insurance company, and that bill has now gone on to a debt collector. I have no idea what happens now. Maybe I'll get a knock on the door one day demanding a kidney or something to cover it, but honestly, this surprise billing is not fair and it's not right. It's worth explaining that the number one reason why people in the United States go bankrupt is due to medical costs. Tens of millions of Americans cannot pay their medical debts. The high cost of healthcare has left millions of people uninsured or underinsured. Bankruptcy is one option that many seek when they have no alternative to the huge bills. Consider the costs of some of these surgeries. A knee replacement for $35,000. A heart valve replacement, $170,000. Or, heaven forbid, you need a heart transplant, between $1 to $1.4 million. Even an ambulance ride will set you back anywhere between $1,000 to $3,500. Now, if you happen to need an air ambulance service, you're looking at between $12,000 and $25,000 per flight, and it's not unheard of for these costs to go into the several of $1 million range, depending upon the type of care that is needed. So imagine this. You've had a severe fall off a trail bike out in a remote area and you need to be airlifted to a hospital for critical surgery that's going to save your life, and you're either uninsured or you're underinsured. How do you pay for it? Do you decide just not to do anything? Over the last 7 weeks or so, I have been incapacitated with an illness that so far no one has been able to diagnose. I've been unable to work, and from a financial perspective, it's a little bit of a drain. My first stop was to my primary care physician, or GP as we call them in Australia. It was at this time that I found out that they had been overcharging me for my previous half a dozen visits.
It's all outside.
And I was referred to the billing area of the doctor's surgery, who would not come out to speak to me and instead passed a message along for me to call my insurance provider to sort it out.
I could tell you, but then I'd have to kill you.
I called the insurance people, who tell me it's the doctor's fault and that I'd need to deal with them. I call back to the doctor and I actually get to speak to the billing person this time, but her attitude and demeanor was one of contempt and complete ignorance. I was the one that was in the wrong. I needed to speak to the insurer. She was barking, she was on the verge of yelling.
How rude!
I don't understand what is wrong with the people that work in medical billing here. I am sure that there are some very nice people, very nice, caring people, but my experiences so far have been quite the opposite. Now, maybe she was having a bad day, as she did call me back the next day apologizing and said that she'd sorted it all out and that they were sending me a check in the mail. I was written several prescriptions during this recent medical journey, and it took over 2 weeks to get them filled at an affordable price. It was initially going to cost me over $4,500 a month for the medication that I need. It took many calls to the doctor, then to the insurance company, and to various pharmacies to sort this all out. Throughout this whole time, my health was worsening and I had no answers as to what was going on. This is an important lesson that I learned that's really valuable for you to learn as well. Different pharmacies charge different prices. The $4,500 a month that Walgreens were wanting to charge me came down to just $40 a month at Walmart. I never dreamed that different pharmacies in the US would charge vastly different prices, and it took me 6 years to learn this. We recently had to take one of the kids to the ER at 3 a.m. and on this visit, nothing needed to be paid for up front, but a few weeks later, a bill arrives.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
The total cost of treatment was close to $9,000. There was no admittance, there were a few scans completed, and there was a consult with a doctor.
How you doing?
Our out-of-pocket after insurance covered things was around $1,000. So the difference between this treatment in America and back home in Australia is that the ER visit back home would have been covered by Australia's Medicare, and we would not have to pay a thing, insurance or no insurance. Universal healthcare does not imply coverage for all cases or for all people. Only that all people have access to healthcare when and where needed without financial hardship. And that is the key. Affordable healthcare where the well-being of the patient is more important than the bottom line.
It is essential that you as a patient feel that you have the right to ask questions about your own health. Because if you don't ask, who's going to ask for you?